Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim Museum in New York, next to Central Park. Now, I gotta be careful here and start with a full disclosure. I'm a huge Frank Lloyd Wright fanboy. So whenever I talk Frank Lloyd Wright, tears might come out. I think that dude was one of the greatest ever. I'm not gay, but I would blow Frank Lloyd Wright. So
the old Frank.
Good old Frank. Apparently he had many wives also around. He was having his fun as well.
God damn. These architects of the past were real players, not like the today's totally. Poor bastards, the today architects just coping.
They were total bosses. But yeah, Guggenheim of New York, now this building, it's awesome. First of all, white concrete. It's one of the first buildings done with white concrete, which is a pretty modern concept when it's done. If you look at it, right now it looks like a, let's say, modern style building. But if you look at pictures from when it was built, I think it's the 20s, I think it was. It's amazing because you could see the cars of the time next to that building, and the building looks like it comes from the future because those cars look nothing like any car that we have right now. The geometry of this building, how it connects with the park, how it connects with the buildings around it, to me it's one of the biggest icons in New York. I can't wait to visit it, but I can't wait to go again and visit it.
I was super unlucky because when I went to New York, it was closed for setting up the next exhibition. So I could enter only in the atrium and see like the big atrium. One thing that has to mention is that in that period, they had this sort of attraction for this futuristic way of building stuff because it was shortly after the Industrial Revolution. So people were extremely excited about machines. It was basically the opposite spirit of today. Today now we have this ecologist obsession.
Nature first,
yeah, and they were like, "Fuck it! Now we finally have machines. Finally, can really this sped up so much the development of society and of the industry and of the economy." And what is fascinating, what probably people might underestimate when you see the building nowadays, because maybe it doesn't look so complicated. They didn't have any computers or any digital tools to design. They had to design by hand.
Exactly.
And designing that spiral, it's super complicated.
This has been done by a dude with a pen. That's it. And building it itself after, like, guys, I'm guessing pouring concrete, checking how it's done, going almost every day. Like nowadays, when you have to visit the construction site, you don't really have to go every day because systems are standardized, so you can apply a system in different parts of the building, and only when you find connection points, elements that are not so obvious, you have to visit the construction site more often. Otherwise, you can stay in the office and coordinate from there very often. With this kind of building, this kind of geometry, I can imagine the architect going there every day, every hour, that they make the right curve, the right form. The building works with the street, that the flow of people on the street can feel invited to enter into the building. It feels like the protection of a shelter. And, you know, New York in winter can be a harsh place. Awesome place, 1920s. Nowadays, yeah, it looks more of a modern-ish building, but you have to see it in the time where it was made. It would look completely astonishing, alien to the place. I
have to correct you because it's a little bit later in the 1960s that they made it. 3 years of construction. Also financed by the Guggenheim family, which is this super fucking rich family involved into mining, and they have this sort of foundation, and they have built afterwards several Guggenheim museums around the world. There is one in Venice. There is the latest one, I think it's in Abu Dhabi, or I'm not sure if it's a Guggenheim or a Louvre, but they're fucking...
Yes. They have one in Bilbao. We might reference it later in Spain, which is a
that's
game
true.
changer.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
It's a big deal. I thought it was earlier, but okay, 1960s. It is.
Oh, the internet says so. Cannot be right. Cannot be wrong in case of the... but yeah, right. But Frank Lloyd Wright, for sure, one of the biggest geniuses of the 20th century. He was a complete star back in the days, did several revolutionary things, changed a little bit the point of view. And I think that going through this list for me also was super interesting to notice how many great architects have been in America in the last century. And now it's a little bit, they don't have these figures of influence in the world of architecture. They have this huge corporation like SOM, KPF, Studio Gang, all these huge ass offices that are the biggest in the world, because America is basically based on the big corporation, and architecture is not different. There's this huge corporation with thousands of architects work at. But I miss a little bit one figure, one
star.
Reference.
Yeah, I agree. And Frank, I say Frank like he was my buddy, And that guy, he was the man. Very traveled guy. Traveled, like traveling, not troubled. Which I think it could be also one of the keys why his style was a bit different. The guy lived in Japan for a while, which, nowadays to go and live in Japan, it may seem more, let's say, on quotes, normal. But, 100 years ago, it was even more rare to go.
Accessible, rather. Like now it's accessible. Like if this is your goal, you can definitely do it and you can fly. Back in the days, they would hop on a ship and...
Exactly. So he has this influence, which you see, it could be one of the sources why his style is a bit different, because he's influenced by the culture of another country. He has a lot of houses throughout the US and a lot of buildings. But yeah, my dude, Frank Lloyd Wright, even his windows that he designs in the Guggenheim and in other buildings like the Robbie House, there's actually jewelry made based on these windows where it's sort of the shape of the window but scaled down to the size of an earring that you can put in your ear. And there's Frank Lloyd Wright windows in the shape of earrings and this kind of stuff. And it even works now.
Yeah, and also in the back in the days, now this is starting to become a little bit of a critical point towards current situation in architecture, is that all these people, despite being the designers, they were also sort of artisans, and they would invest so much time into designing a single detail, a single particular form that was meant exactly for that building, and then other artisans will construct these windows by hand in the exact shape it was needed by the architect to achieve his goal. And also the clients wanted that. Nowadays, I think that both architects have started following a little bit the standardization of the softwares we use.
For sure.
And also the clients, because they want, this company makes the standard windows, use the standard windows, put them there, and we're good to go. And meanwhile, back in the days, there was exactly this feeling of the architect, but especially the client, because the client is the one who gives the money, wanted to leave a mark, a heritage. Mm-hmm. And after hundreds of years, there are these iconic buildings, and everybody remembers both the designer and the commissioner.
Exactly. Now it's more profit focused. So yeah, what are you going to do? This still happens, but very rarely. Like every now and then you get a museum or an opera house here and there where they actually went all in. Mm-hmm. We could do at some point top 10 German buildings or European buildings, but that's for another day. Not today.
Yeah, we would need to do each country, because here the culture is so different. Nowadays, maybe the Saudi Arabia world is trying to do something similar, but in my opinion, is nothing comparable to the great buildings of the 20th century that were made throughout America, with the sensitivity, the style, the quality. Super nice.
Don't get me started with the Dubai, Saudi story. We'll do it one day.
The line.
We'll get cancelled the next day.
The line. And I'm rather afraid Saudi agents going to look for us to kill us.
Yes, I'll be hanged after. But So let's move to the next one.